Just as things were getting hot and heavy, I looked down in horror to see that my manhood was gone. "What's wrong?" my wife asked. There we were, in the honeymoon suite of a 5-star resort hotel on what was supposed to be a romantic getaway. With plenty of hot foreplay, I managed to get an erection. Well, a semi-erection at least. But it was the best I'd done in months. But now, as I held myself over my wife's naked, eager body, my erection shriveled, and my confidence along with it. "I thought you were hard," she said. "Why can't you get it up?" What was I supposed to say? I was turned on. I wanted my wife bad. I wanted to please her, to make her squirm and moan, and I wanted her to please me. You can imagine my anxiety and frustration as I realized my manhood was limp as soggy spaghetti. She put on her robe and went into the other room, leaving me feeling inadequate and alone. After all my romantic preparation, the flirting and the foreplay, when the time came, my body failed me in the most humiliating way possible. Now, my wife is beautiful and I love her. The first years of our marriage were filled with amazing sex, but now it had been years since I'd been able to get a solid erection. This romantic getaway was supposed to help me over my ED, but I went home feeling like a failure and a sorry excuse for a man. It was devastating, but not as devastating as what I found the next week on my wife's computer, a secret conversation with her old boyfriend. Now, I'm sharing this embarrassing story because it's how I discovered that the conventional wisdom about ED is dead wrong. In fact, it led to my discovering the real cause behind ED. It's not about low testosterone. It's not mental. So the next person who claims it's all in your head, you can tell them to shut up. And it's not something you want to treat with criminally priced medications, forking over your hard-earned money to the $4.9 billion ED pharmaceutical industry. Because every time you take one of those pills, you risk your life. Since almost 1,000 people die every year from heart attacks after taking Viagra. Worst of all, those pills are a Band-Aid fix that often make the real cause of ED even worse. So every pill makes it even more impossible to get an erection later on. You become a slave to Big Pharma, paying them to make your problem worse. Fortunately, my journey led me away from medications and false premises, and to the true cause and solution to ED that's been ignored by most mainstream medicine and the media. That's right, medical research published by Oxford University has found the real cause behind your ED, and you can fix this problem just by eating a simple sandwich. I couldn't believe it myself when I first heard, until I saw the ED-destroying ingredients that went into it. In this video, I'll share how a simple stomach ache led me to the natural solution for ED that today is helping people all over the world. Ever since I discovered this secret, I've been able to get erections as hard as iron, literally on demand, which my wife loves. Because the harder your erection, the more pleasure your partner feels. It's given me back my confidence and helped me feel like a man again. And I'm not the only one. Check out what Hank Bowman from Mesa, Arizona had to say. After my divorce, I felt weak and hopeless. I made myself get back out there and date. But whenever things started getting intimate, I couldn't get an erection. My ED was guaranteeing I'd be alone forever. Luckily, this presentation showed me 12 simple foods that reversed my ED. Now I feel like a real alpha male. My only problem now is getting hard too easily. I'm telling everyone I know to watch this video. And here's a message I received from Chasing Pebbles in Miami, Florida. I've always had ED, and I was terrified I'd never enjoy a healthy sex life with my wife. When I watched this presentation, I had my doubts. But then I saw that it's all backed by research from top universities. After 4 days of adding the 12 simple foods to my meals, I got the hardest erection of my life. Now I'm almost getting erections too often. But my wife definitely doesn't mind. If erectile dysfunction is messing up your life, then I'm telling you, this presentation has what you need. So if you've ever felt humiliated from not being able to achieve an erection, been embarrassed by losing your erection too early, not been able to please your partner because you only achieve a semi during sex, anxiously worried, am I going to be able to get hard tonight, felt the shame of needing porn or masturbation to get an erection, suffered the inadequacy of not feeling like a real man, or felt like an imposter in a weak and miserable life, all thanks to your ED, then stick with me for the next 5 minutes, and I'll show you the medical research published by Oxford University that proves you can go from the shame and humiliation of staying soft during sex to the confidence and pride of getting stronger, rock-hard erections practically on demand. And I'll show you how to do it in as little as 24 hours, just by eating a simple sandwich. But make sure you watch all the way to the end of this presentation, because only people who see the entire message will achieve these results and get the sex life they've always deserved. And it doesn't matter how old you are. It doesn't matter how long you've had ED. It doesn't matter how bad your ED is. If you're only getting semi-erections, or if you can't get hard at all, this natural solution is the tool you need to take back your manhood and your sex life. But first, you're probably wondering who I am and why I put together this presentation. My name is Michael Steele. I'm 58 years old, and I live with my wife just outside Seattle, Washington. For over a decade, I suffered from humiliating erectile dysfunction. Early in our marriage, we'd have sex 1 or 2 times a day. Even 10 years into it, we were still wild in the bedroom. It never got boring, you know? But a few years after I turned 40, that's when my problem started. There was nothing different about that night, but for some reason, as I pulled my wife's lingerie off her body, I didn't get hard. I kept waiting, but I stayed soft. She tried to make it happen. I even tried, even though it made me feel like a horny teenager. I was so embarrassed. "You were probably just tired," my wife said. "I guess I had a long day," I replied, but I was worried. The next day, I anxiously tried not to think about it. I told myself it was probably just a one-time thing. But even at work, as the other guys were joking around, a little voice in my mind was whispering, "What if it happens again?" Well, guess what? A couple weeks later, it did happen again. And then again a couple weeks after that. Pretty soon it was a few times a week. And then before I know it, my manhood was gone. I was ashamed to admit that I could almost never get an erection. Our passionate, active sex life was ripped away from us. I was failing at my duties as a husband, and I felt like a sorry excuse for a man. The next few years were the most difficult and depressing of my entire life. My confidence was shot. If I couldn't be a man in the bedroom, was I really a man outside of it? That crippling self-doubt ruined my work performance. I watched jealously as my boss chose guys younger than me for promotions and raises. I put on a macho act, but inside I knew I was inadequate. I lived in terror that someone would find out that I couldn't get it up. The whole thing had me mentally exhausted, all day, every day. I tried talking to my doctor, but he just smirked like he didn't understand what I was going through, and prescribed medications that cost me thousands of dollars every year. But quickly I discovered what the ED pharmaceutical companies don't want you to know. Those pills can have deadly side effects. One night after taking one, I put my hand on my chest and realized my heartbeat was irregular. My wife rushed me to the hospital, and they did a few tests. My blood pressure had dropped so low that not enough blood was reaching my heart. Well, I got off those pills right away. See, Viagra, Cialis, Levitra, they can make your blood pressure dangerously low. And for me, that turned out to just be too risky. And for a lot of men, these drugs are even more deadly. They've been linked to blood clots, strokes, and even heart attacks. What really infuriates me is that these drugs can aggravate the root cause of your ED. So every time you take one, in the future you'll need it even more. But I'll share those details with you in a second. After I learned the truth about the common ED medications, I decided to try other so-called cures. Supplements like L-arginine and horny goatweed. They were worse than the medications. They just made me jittery, anxious, and nauseous, and didn't even solve my problem. I felt like a sucker wasting thousands of dollars on snake oil supplements. But I wouldn't give up. I heard that exercise helped. Nope. In fact, the wrong kind of exercise will make it almost impossible to get an erection. And the whole time I was trying one false solution after another, my relationship with my wife was falling apart. Obviously, ED killed our sexual relationship. She stopped initiating sex, since she didn't know when I'd be able to perform. If we tried to get started, I was constantly reaching down to feel if I was hard. It became so analytical, like I was doing a difficult, precise chore rather than making love. On the rare occasions that we managed to have sex, I couldn't enjoy it because I was stressing about every little detail. On top of that, each and every physical aspect of our relationship fell apart. No matter what we were doing, it just felt off. Holding hands, kissing, even putting my arm around her on the couch, it just made us nervous. These little physical touches used to lead to sex, so now they felt different, like something was missing. My wife was scared I didn't find her attractive anymore. She wondered if some deep part of me found her old and ugly, that maybe it was my subconscious rejecting her, and she blamed herself. One night she even accused me of getting my sexual needs met somewhere else, of having an affair. But of course I wasn't. I didn't know yet. I was the one who should have been suspicious. I felt so guilty. It was my responsibility to treat her well and make her feel loved, and I was tearing her apart. It was then that I planned a romantic trip to the Bahamas. I promised her I would be ready to perform, and I spent the next month trying everything I could to fix my problem. Therapy, supplements, exercise, medication. When the time came, we got on an airplane, headed to the Bahamas, and spent a romantic day together. After a candlelit dinner, we headed back to the hotel. You already know what happened next. I managed to achieve at least a semi-erection, but it shriveled after a few seconds. I looked down at my wife's beautiful, eager body, and I knew I was a failure. The rest of the trip was terrible. When we got home, I'd completely given up. I thought I'd never be able to please my wife. I'd never be a real man again. The best thing I could do was to let her go, so she could find someone who could meet her physical and emotional needs. I'll never forget the day I got home from work and found her laptop on the couch. I picked it up, thinking I'd check sports scores. Instead, I found a chat window opened. She was talking with her old college boyfriend about my ED. I'm just saying, her old boyfriend had typed. If I was with someone as beautiful as you, I wouldn't have any trouble getting hard. My wife had defended me, but I could tell she was losing hope. That's not fair. He's working on it. Hasn't he been working on it for years? Aren't you tired of it? Of course I'm tired, she had answered. I love him so much, but I can't take this much longer. I know it's not my fault, but it feels like it is. I feel ugly. I want to feel sexy again. After a second, she'd added, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said all that. Thanks for listening. You're a good friend. And then her old boyfriend had responded, It sounds like you need more than a friend. You should meet me in my hotel room. My wife hadn't answered. My world fell apart. I was horrified to see how close our marriage was to shattering into pieces. I knew I had to find the answer. I was facing a ticking time bomb, and when it exploded, it would destroy the most important relationship to me in the whole world. But I'd already tried the common methods, and they'd been useless. My only hope was to find a solution everyone else had missed. I spent weeks researching. I'd come home from work every day and lock myself in the office, searching for a solution on the internet. There had to be something out there, but there was so much information that without a clue of where to start looking, it was hopeless, like looking for a needle in a haystack. Fortunately, about a week after I saw my wife's conversation, I got lucky. A terrible stomachache sent me in to see my doctor. After a few tests, he said, You have mild pancreatitis. There's nothing to worry about. It's just an inflammatory problem. He told me to be careful what I ate for a week or two. And then he got this look on his face, like he'd just thought of something. Are you still struggling with erectile dysfunction? He asked. I said yes. I asked because pancreatitis is an inflammatory disease, and I was just reading some new medical research that shows ED is actually an inflammatory disease too. So it's possible that your ED is being caused by inflammation. I could look into that for you if you'd like. I said sure. And then I realized this could be the clue I needed, the nudge in the right direction. I went straight home and dove back into my own research. Now that I had a starting place, it was simple. I found a medical study published by Oxford University in 2007 that showed how ED is actually an inflammatory disease. In fact, in the last 15 years, studies at some of the world's most respected universities show that inflammation is the hidden cause behind ED. So why should you care about this real cause? Because we already know how to treat inflammatory diseases. But before we get too detailed into the cause and solution for ED, let's start from the beginning, with the anatomy of an erection. I was afraid this would be complicated and confusing, but it turns out it's really simple. There are two structures that run the length of your penis, together called the corpora cavernosa. They're made up of a complex maze of blood vessels. When you get aroused, the blood vessels of the corpora cavernosa relax, allowing blood to flow in freely. The extra blood engorges your penis, causing an erection. That's all it takes to get hard as iron. Those blood vessels just have to relax. The cause of ED is just as simple. The corpora cavernosa don't relax. That means blood can't flow freely. So your penis won't engorge and you won't get an erection. This is the problem that all the mainstream ED cures focus on. Pills, supplements, and habits to strong-arm those blood vessels into temporarily relaxing, while actually making long-term inflammation worse. But for some reason, no one was asking the question, why wasn't the corpora cavernosa relaxing? What was stopping it? That's where this new research published by Oxford University comes in. It shows that inflammation is squeezing closed your corpora cavernosa, so it can't relax, blood can't flow in, and you can't get an erection. So what's inflammation? Don't worry, this is even easier to understand, and it contains the secret to curing your ED. First, we have to be clear that there's two types of inflammation. The first is called acute inflammation, and it's a vital part of your immune system. When you injure yourself, your cells become inflamed in order to heal the injury. Think of how your skin turns red when you get a scratch. But sometimes the cells in your body get confused and become inflamed when there's no injury to heal, causing all sorts of problems. This is called chronic inflammation, and it plagues millions of people in the U.S. alone. Chronic inflammation is the cause behind arthritis, asthma, Crohn's disease, IBS, and plenty of others. And now medical researchers have found that chronic inflammation is the hidden cause behind ED. See, your cells are getting inflamed and squeezing shut your corpora cavernosa, stopping blood from getting into your penis and killing any chance of getting an erection. It's like trying to fill an air mattress with an elephant standing on top. It doesn't matter how hard you pump. That air is not getting in. When you've got ED, inflammation squeezes you shut like that elephant squeezes that air mattress. It doesn't matter how turned on you feel. Your corpora cavernosa won't become engorged, and you won't get an erection. And that's why the most common ED medications and supplements can actually make your ED worse. Several of them increase inflammation. So while they might give you temporary relief from ED, at the same time they're making it worse. It's like drinking whiskey to cure a hangover. You feel better for a few minutes, but you're digging yourself deeper into your problem. And all along, you're forking over more and more cash to the $4.9 billion ED pharmaceutical industry. I don't know about you, but that makes me furious. But now, I was about to break free from Big Pharma's chains because I'd discovered the real cause behind my ED. Like I said, there are already solutions to inflammation. For decades now, the scientific and medical community have been coming up with ways to fight it. I didn't have to invent a cure. I just had to figure out which of the thousands of inflammation cures already out there would calm down my inflamed cells, let my corpora cavernosa relax and engorge with blood, and let me achieve rock-hard erections on demand. One of these inflammation cures had to be the key to saving my marriage and giving me back my manhood. One by one, I tried them out. Supplements, exercises, meditation, I tried it all. I spent months failing over and over. Maybe these tricks helped other inflammatory diseases, but they weren't curing my ED. The excitement I first felt was fading. I was terrified that my sex life was dead forever, and it would murder my marriage, and my happiness with it. I almost gave up, but I decided I'd give it one more try. I'd test out one more inflammation cure. I pored through research articles about how individual foods affect inflammation. Well, I took these studies and put together a list of 12 simple foods that actually minimized inflammation. Then I added those foods to my diet in the most delicious way possible. I designed several tasty sandwiches to get rid of inflammation and conquer ED. I'll admit, I didn't expect it to work, and I was already thinking about how I'd be weak and lonely forever. So you can imagine how surprised I felt when, the first night, as I was brushing my teeth, I looked in the mirror and saw my pajama bottoms bulging. I had the hardest, biggest erection of my entire life. It took about 10 seconds to find my wife. She saw me and said, "I thought you threw away your pills." With a huge grin, I said, "I did." She gasped. Let me tell you, we didn't even make it back to the bedroom. We had the best sex of our lives right there on the living room couch. I felt her body against mine, and I knew she still loved me, and that the magic was still there. The way she squirmed and moaned. I knew I could still please her. I was still the same tough man I'd always been. Afterwards, we lay entangled in each other like when we were newlyweds. "Were you always that big?" she asked breathlessly. Those 12 simple foods and the sandwiches I made from them had given me an intense erection, so hard and so big that my wife thought I'd taken male enhancement pills. "Yep," I said, "and you're not going to believe this, but I'm ready to go again." And trust me, we did go again. And again. My life suddenly became amazing. I was worried that it might be a one-time thing, but it lasted. As the months went by, I realized that the 12 simple foods had cured my ED. My biggest problem now was getting erections too often. We felt like newlyweds again. We made love almost every day, and I was always ready to go. No stress and no anxiety, and the excitement of our relationship returned. Sometimes I still catch her looking at me with an expression of pure desire, like I'm the hottest man she's ever seen. I'm now fully confident when I initiate sex, and she initiates as often as I do. With my ED cured, the smaller physical touches like putting my arm around her or rubbing her back are no longer a source of anxiety. If we want them to lead to sex, we know that's an option, and she no longer doubts whether I love her, or want her, or think she's beautiful. She trusts me again. She never answered her ex, and cut him off completely. Best of all, I got my best friend back. She's my anchor, my support, and my future. And what's more, my feelings of frustration, inadequacy, and humiliation are gone. I practically strut through the office, since I know that there's no doubt about my manhood. I do better at work, and I enjoy my hobbies again. There's something about knowing that you can please a woman that makes you feel like you can conquer the whole world. One day at work, I overheard my boss talking on the phone about his own ED. I recognized the shame and frustration in his voice. I knew how he felt, and I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. I wrote him a careful email, saying that I'd experienced his problem before, and that I'd found the answer. I attached all my research about the 12 simple foods and my sandwich recipes and clicked send. A week later, my boss called me into his office. "I don't know where you found that solution," he said, "but it worked. Thank you." After that, something crazy happened. I started getting calls and emails from guys I'd never met, asking me to send them the info. Nobody wanted to talk about it in public, but once they could get me in private, they'd started grilling me with questions. I just emailed them what I'd found, told them how it worked for me, and wished them luck. Without fail, I always heard back in a few weeks, telling me how these 12 simple foods had cured their ED. That's when I realized it wasn't just me. This solution could help virtually anyone with ED. One night, lying in bed with my wife, she said, "You should share that with the world." She was right. This could change the lives of millions of men. I tried getting in touch with the pharmaceutical companies, but they weren't interested, since it wouldn't help them sell more drugs. In fact, once people recognize that they can cure their ED with 12 simple foods, Big Pharma is going to lose $4.9 billion every year. But first, I'd have to get the word out myself. So I took all my research and the program I had come up with and made sure it was super easy to understand and super simple to follow. I built on the 12 simple foods, and pretty soon, I was looking at a complete program full of vital information and simple techniques to conquer ED. Naturally, I decided to call my program the ED Conqueror. Let me take a second to run through everything that's inside. It's divided into 3 modules, and you'll start off with Module 1, The Truth About Your ED. This is where you'll see the gritty details that show the real cause of ED, and you'll see the science that proves it. I'll show you exactly how dangerous the drugs are that Big Pharma is selling you. And I'll show you in detail all the studies proving that ED is caused by inflammation, which can be cured just by eating a few simple foods. After this overview of the problems we're facing, it's time to move on to the meat of the program. Module 2, the done-for-you blueprint to solve your inflammation and conquer your ED. This is where you'll discover the secrets to mastering your arousal and getting the sexual confidence of a rock star. You'll find out 12 foods that reduce inflammation and help you regain your sexual prowess. Sandwich recipes to add those foods to your diet in the most delicious way possible. The 13 worst inflammatory foods that you must avoid to reverse your ED. Natural supplements that actually reduce inflammation, and which supplements are snake oil that will make your ED worse. Plus, 11 simple lifestyle tricks to reduce your inflammation and reverse your ED even faster, like a low-impact, relaxing workout that erases inflammation and helps you achieve instant erections, and can lose you up to 30 pounds in just 1 month. Plus, why cooking your food at a lower temperature could be the secret to achieving erections that get and stay hard as iron. No more getting soft in the middle of sex. And did you know that stress is a major trigger of inflammation? This module includes proven quick-fix tricks and long-term strategies for eliminating stress. The info comes from the Harvard University Center for Depression, Anxiety, and Stress Research. This module also includes a sample 30-day plan, so you'll get step-by-step instructions on how to put this program into practice and say goodbye to your ED in as little as 24 hours. You'll have the confidence to turn any romantic situation passionate. And once you've got your plan together, let's beef it up with Module 3, the Firing on All Cylinders Plan to Eliminate ED. As you know, ED is a big problem. Whether you've been struggling with it for decades or just a few weeks, it can make your whole life miserable. And a big problem needs a heavy-duty solution. That's why in this module, you'll get tons of tricks, strategies, and techniques, each one designed to make sure that when she wraps her fingers around your erection, she's shocked and aroused at how thick and hard it is. Think of it like this. Let's say that ED is a flood in your basement, caused by a leaking pipe. If you want the basement to stop flooding, you absolutely have to fix that leak. But even after you repair the pipe, you're not just going to wait for your basement to dry. You're going to do everything that you can to get the water out of there, right? Buckets, towels, mops, fans, heaters, everything. That's what the Firing on All Cylinders plan is for. After you repair the pipe by reducing your inflammation, you still want to attack your ED with everything you've got. So in this module, I'll show you the 60-second exercise that will strengthen your pelvic muscles, allowing blood to flow into an erection lightning fast so you can enjoy quickies again. The scientific reasoning behind why watermelon juice is like nature's Viagra, why adopting one simple sleep habit practically guarantees you'll stay hard even when putting on a condom, 11 common medications to avoid that will hijack your ED cure and keep you limp as wet macaroni, plus 7 more proven tricks that help give you tougher, more vigorous erections regardless of how anxious, stressed, or exhausted you feel. These techniques are backed by medical research and have been tested in university studies, not to mention that I've used them and my students have used them, so they're proven methods to get you back to being king of the bedroom. So if you're serious about bringing back the passion and thrills to your sex life, make sure you enroll in the ED Conqueror program today. Plus, I've got a special bonus going on today only. When you enroll in the program, I'll throw in the Rock Her World Guide to Intense Orgasms. Like I said, once you reduce your inflammation, you'll have rock-hard erections. And the harder the erection, the greater her pleasure. In this guide, you'll discover a full arsenal of sexual tricks to bring her to orgasm over and over. You'll also find out how to make her moan things like, "That feels amazing," "You're perfect," "How are you doing that?" and my personal favorite, "Oh." The key to mutual climax, so you enjoy every moment just as much as her. Plus, how to make her writhe and squirm and grab the bedsheets in pleasure before the actual intercourse even starts. I figure since I'm giving you the tools to amp up your sex life, I might as well throw in the tools to make that sex life amazing. But this is a limited offer. I can't give it out to everyone. If you want to guarantee you get a copy of the Rock Her World Guide to Intense Orgasms, then make sure to enroll in the ED Conqueror today. You know I'd like to give this away for free, like I did with the first people I helped. I'd love to help every single man struggling with this humiliating problem and show them the simple path to reversing their ED. And if I had all the money in the world to fund this myself, I would. But the cold reality is, we're up against some pretty big forces here. I told you how the big pharmaceutical companies make $4.9 billion per year on selling ED meds. And I can't even guess how much the so-called health gurus make by selling dangerous, useless ED supplements. They all have the money they need to practically bury anything we do to share this message with the world. So I need your help in the form of giving me a fair price for this program that could radically change your life for the better. It offsets some of our web development expense and other costs of bringing this to you. And it's certainly a fair price compared to the cost of ED meds so many of us have paid. Just $39.95 today, and I'll share it with you. And I can continue sharing this important message with guys like you and me who are having to deal with this frustrating problem. I could tell you it's worth $1,000. It'll definitely save you thousands of dollars in medication costs every year. Who can even measure the mental cost of the frustration, humiliation, and inadequacy caused by ED? My wife and I could get rich maybe if we charged that much for it. Big Pharma may be comfortable charging you thousands of dollars for a temporary fix to your ED, but I'm not that kind of person. Listen, I'm just a regular guy. I don't want to stiff you on this. I want you to feel like you're getting way more value than the little investment you made. And so I think that $39.95 is a great price. So you get some serious savings, and you help us spread this message even wider. You can start conquering your ED right now for only $39.95. Take a second to think about how it will feel to know that just meeting her eyes and then glancing at the bed can lead to mind-blowing sex, without anxiety and without drugs. Think about how exciting your life will be again when you know that sex is always just a moment away. Think about how much more confidence you'll have once you conquer this miserable problem, and how it will feel when the magic is back in your relationship, both in the bedroom and in every part of your life. After all, studies show a healthy sex life leads to a happier marriage, and more success at work, and higher life satisfaction. It's really that simple. When your sex life is great, your whole life feels better. So it's time to break free from the chains of erectile dysfunction. Click the button below and add the ED Conqueror to your cart right now. You'll see our secure checkout page, where you're going to fill in your information to claim your copy of the program. Once you check out, you'll see the instant access download page. That's where you can download the ED Conqueror in a PDF version, so you can read it on your computer, tablet, or smartphone, or print it out and read it anywhere. Let me take a second to share with you what people I've already helped have said about the ED Conqueror. Tanner Harris from Nevada said, "Last year I turned 79. I'd given up on sex, thinking erectile dysfunction was just part of getting older. But once I discovered the ED Conqueror, I figured, why not give it a shot? Let me tell you, at 80 years old, my wife and I are having more fun in the bedroom than we were at 25. And Jake Thacker from North Carolina said, "The worst part of ED was feeling like I wasn't good enough. I had a nice house, my dream car, and a great job, but I couldn't get an erection, so I was a failure. Everything I used to love doing, biking, fishing, even watching football, it all felt empty, since I was failing at the number one thing that made me a man. But as soon as I tried the ED Conqueror, I became a beast in bed. You should have heard her moan. The techniques in this program gave me back my manhood." And John Crenshaw from Washington said, "I'll admit I was skeptical at first. I was already using prescribed ED medication. Why did I need something else? But then I thought about all the side effects those meds gave me, and I thought about how I didn't want to use them forever. Still, I did my own research before trying out ED Conqueror. Well, the medical research was all there, so I enrolled in the program and gave it my best shot. After just one day, I had the biggest, hardest erection of my life. My only problem now is getting hard when I shouldn't, at work, at the grocery store, anywhere. All I have to do is think about sex. I'm living proof that the ED Conqueror will give you the sex life you've been craving. Now that you've seen how it worked for them, I want you to see how it works for you. So here's a risk-free way for you to try out the ED Conqueror for yourself. Download the system right now and start using it. If for some reason it doesn't work for you, even though the principles inside should work for over 95% of men, or if you just decide it's not for you, then I'm offering you a money-back guarantee. In fact, since I'm sending you the system through ClickBank, the nation's largest and most trusted information retailer, you get ClickBank's ironclad guarantee. If for any reason you're not satisfied with the ED Conqueror, just request a refund within 60 days and I'll refund your money 100%. That means that in 60 days, you will have conquered the root cause of your ED and restarted your sex life, or you'll get every penny back. You can think of it as a risk-free test drive. If you're ready to make the smartest decision of your life, click the button to enroll in the ED Conqueror right now. I'm sure this goes without saying, but your purchase is 100% private and anonymous. We don't share your information, and we certainly don't share anything about your ED. Now, you might be wondering how fast you'll see results. Well, if you start in the program tonight, here's what you could expect over the next few weeks. As soon as tomorrow, you'll notice you have more energy and your muscles feel less sore. That's what it feels like when inflammation starts to leave your body. Some men are even able to achieve an erection at this point. After 1 week, your inflammation will be on its way out. Other side effects of inflammation, like upset stomachs and intestinal troubles, should start to fade. This is the point where most men start to see a difference in the bedroom. That means that you could be achieving rock-hard erections naturally in just 7 days. During weeks 2 to 4, your body will go through a complete transformation. The done-for-you blueprint to solve your inflammation and conquer your ED will help reduce your inflammation almost down to zero, allowing your corpora cavernosa to relax and blood to flow freely, giving you rigid erections. At the same time, the firing on all cylinders plan to eliminate ED will be attacking your problem from every angle, helping you conquer your ED as quickly as possible. Picture that for a second. How will it feel when you can pleasure your partner again? When she touches you and gasps, "Was it always that big?" Imagine walking through work with your head held high, knowing that you can please a woman in ways other guys half your age can only dream of. I want those dreams to be your reality. So please, click the button to claim your copy of the ED Conqueror right now. Think about what's going to happen if you don't click the button, if you don't change your life. Tonight, you'll go back to what you've been doing. You'll talk to your wife, and it'll be pleasant enough. But that lingering frustration will still be there. Every word you say, every glance you give each other, every accidental touch, it'll all be twisted and stained by the inadequacy and humiliation of your ED. Think about crawling into bed with your wife tonight. What kind of man will you be? Would 20-year-old you recognize that man? What would your younger, sexually fierce self think about him? Would he think he was old and weak? What would he think about you 1 year from now, or 5 years, or 10 years? Because if you don't fix it, ED and its destructive effect will tear down your confidence and your relationships until there's nothing left. Big Pharma can't help you. They'll just keep robbing you blind in exchange for dangerous Band-Aid fixes that only add to the real problem. ED may not be at the front of your mind 24/7, but over the years it will slowly destroy your confidence and your manhood. Unseen, ED will eat away at who you are, like termites silently destroying your house. If you think your confidence is shot now, if you think your relationship with your partner is bad now, just wait another year. I'm sorry to say it, but you haven't hit rock bottom yet. There's still miles down to go. If you don't do something to fix it, things can and will get even worse. But I'm telling you, and listen closely as I say this, that doesn't have to happen. And it won't happen if you click the button right now and use the tools inside the ED Conqueror to change your life. Remember, I'm backing this with a 60-day, no questions asked, money-back guarantee. There's no risk to you, and no excuse to keep letting your ED make you miserable. So arm yourself with the ED Conqueror and use it to achieve rock-hard erections. Give your partner pleasure like she's never felt before, and be the man you know you are. In as quickly as 24 hours, you could see that familiar look on her face of pure, lusting desire. Click the button to claim your copy of the ED Conqueror right now. If you're still here, that tells me 2 things. 1, you're ready to conquer your ED. 2, you still have a few questions. That's a good thing. I'm glad you're taking this seriously. Let's take a second to go over some of the most frequently asked questions I get about ED Conqueror. Does ED Conqueror really work? The answer is yes. For 95% of guys, the techniques in this program will cure your erectile dysfunction. Now obviously, if you don't use those techniques, nothing's going to change. But the program works if you work the program. Also, ED Conqueror is best used alongside the advice of your doctor. So make sure to follow what your doctor says and use the program, and it's virtually guaranteed to cure your ED. But if it turns out that for some strange reason, you're one of the less than 5% of people that this program doesn't help, remember our no questions asked money-back guarantee. Just let us know you'd like a refund, and we'll send you back 100% of your purchase price. How long does it take? Like I shared with you, some men will only need a day or 2 on the program to start getting erections again. Some men will need a week or 2, and some will need longer. Most men who work the program are able to revive their sex life within 4 weeks. Is it scientifically proven? Everything you see in ED Conqueror is backed by peer-reviewed medical studies performed at top universities and published in medical journals. The proof is there. It's just the pharmaceutical companies flooding the industry with their drugs that's keeping it from spreading. Keep an eye out, and you'll see these new methods become the new mainstream treatment for ED in the next few years. Is it safe? Yes, it's 100% safe. Obviously, just like with any health program, you should talk to your doctor before making any big changes, especially before adding supplements to your diet. But the ED Conqueror uses natural techniques to reduce inflammation and cure your ED. And of course, the main component, the 12 simple foods, are all healthy foods you'll find in any grocery store. Can anyone use it? It doesn't matter how old you are. It doesn't matter how long you've had ED. It doesn't matter how bad your ED is, or if you're only getting semi-erections, or if you can't get hard at all. The ED Conqueror can help. So use it yourself and share it with your brother. Share it with your father or even your grandfather. It can change anyone's life. Well, friend, it comes down to this. It's do or die time. You can give up and accept a depressing, impotent future, or you can fight back. So take a stand and take back control of your sex life. Click the button below to conquer your ED right away.